People always say blood is thicker than water. I believed that with every part of my heart, until the day my brother's bride looked me in the eyes and quietly erased my place in our family. My name is Ethan, and growing up, my older brother Daniel wasn't just my brother. He was my hero. After our father passed away, life became a struggle that neither of us had expected. Our mother worked long hours just to keep food on the table, and I learned early that love sometimes meant sacrifice. While Daniel focused on college, I took extra shifts after school. I stocked grocery shelves at night, delivered newspapers before sunrise, and skipped countless opportunities so he could chase his dreams. Every paycheck I earned helped pay his tuition, his books, and sometimes even his rent. I never regretted it. Watching him graduate felt like my own victory. When he landed a great job, I couldn't have been prouder. For the first time in years, it felt like our family could finally breathe again. Then he met Sophie. At first, she seemed kind. She smiled warmly, complimented my cooking, and thanked me for everything I'd done for Daniel. She laughed at family dinners and hugged our mother as though she'd always belonged with us. I wanted to believe she was exactly the person my brother deserved. But little things began to change. Whenever Daniel and I laughed about childhood memories, Sophie's smile would fade. If Mom asked me for advice, Sophie found a way to interrupt. Family traditions slowly disappeared because she insisted on creating new ones. I ignored the signs. I convinced myself that weddings were stressful and everyone adjusted differently. I told myself I was imagining the distance growing between Daniel and me. Then came the night before the wedding. The venue buzzed with excitement as relatives decorated tables and rehearsed speeches. I stayed late, helping move chairs, hanging lights, and fixing anything that needed attention. Everyone thanked me for working so hard. Everyone except Sophie. As I carried the last box into the reception hall, she quietly stepped into the empty corridor behind me. "Ethan," she said softly. I smiled, everything ready. She folded her arms and looked at me with a coldness I'd never seen before. "I need to tell you something." I nodded, waiting. "Don't come tomorrow." I laughed nervously, thinking she was joking. "What? You heard me." The silence that followed felt unbearable. She took one slow step closer. "Daniel wants tomorrow to be perfect. Your presence will only bring unnecessary attention. We both think it's better if you stay away." My heart stopped. "Daniel said that." She nodded without hesitation. "He didn't know how to tell you. I volunteered because I didn't want him feeling guilty." I searched her face for even the smallest sign that she was lying. There wasn't one. "I've spent months helping plan this wedding," I whispered. "And we appreciate it," she replied, "but tomorrow is about us, not you." Her words struck harder than any slap ever could. I looked toward the ballroom where my family laughed together, completely unaware that my place among them had just disappeared. I wanted to walk inside and ask Daniel myself. I wanted to demand the truth. Instead, I thought about ruining his wedding with a confrontation, about making guests whisper and forcing him to choose between his bride and his brother. I couldn't do that to him, so I simply nodded. "If that's what he wants," I said quietly, "I'll respect it." Without another word, I walked out into the cold night, carrying a silence that felt heavier than every sacrifice I'd ever made. As I reached my car, I glanced back at the glowing venue one last time. For the first time in my life, I wasn't leaving because I had somewhere to be. I was leaving because someone had convinced me I no longer belonged. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. For a few minutes, I forgot what had happened the night before. I even reached for the suit hanging on my closet door, the one Daniel had helped me choose weeks earlier. Then Sophie's words echoed in my mind. "Don't come tomorrow." I stood there, staring at the suit until my vision blurred with tears. After everything we'd been through, after every sacrifice, I truly believed my own brother no longer wanted me standing beside him on the happiest day of his life. I folded the suit carefully and put it back in the closet. Instead of driving to the church, I drove to a quiet park overlooking the river where Daniel and I had spent countless afternoons as kids. We used to skip rocks across the water and dream about our futures. Back then, we promised nothing would ever come between us. How quickly promises can disappear. As the wedding ceremony began miles away, my phone buzzed over and over. Calls from cousins, messages from old friends, photos of smiling faces dressed in elegant clothes. I couldn't bring myself to answer a single one. By evening, the messages changed. Where are you? Daniel looks upset. Everyone's asking about you. I switched my phone off. For the next several weeks, silence became my closest companion. No one from my family visited. No one asked why I hadn't come. I convinced myself that Sophie had been telling the truth, that Daniel had chosen his new life over his old one. Then one afternoon, my mother finally called. Her voice sounded colder than I had ever heard. "Ethan," she said, "I don't understand why you'd do something like this. What do you mean?" "You embarrassed your brother." "I embarrassed him. Sophie said you refused to attend because you couldn't stand seeing Daniel happy. She said you told her he didn't deserve your support anymore." My heart nearly stopped. "I never said that." Mom sighed heavily. "Your brother cried after the ceremony. He kept saying he wished you'd been there, but Sophie told him you ignored every message and wanted nothing to do with us." I felt the room spinning around me. Daniel had wanted me there. Before I could explain, Mom quietly said, "Maybe someday you'll tell us why you abandoned your own family." The call ended. I stared at my phone, unable to breathe. Something wasn't right. That evening, I searched through my messages. There wasn't a single text from Daniel on the wedding day. Not one missed call. Not one voicemail. It didn't make sense. Daniel would never have let me disappear without trying to reach me, unless someone had made sure he couldn't. Days later, I met my cousin Lily for coffee. She hesitated before speaking. "Ethan, I probably shouldn't tell you this. What is it?" "The morning of the wedding, I heard Sophie telling guests that you were jealous of Daniel's success. She kept saying she wasn't surprised you refused to come." I frowned. "But she told me Daniel didn't want me there." Lily's eyes widened. "What? Daniel spent half the morning asking where you were. He thought you'd been in an accident." My coffee cup slipped from my hands, spilling across the table. In that single moment, everything became painfully clear. Sophie hadn't delivered Daniel's wishes. She had delivered a lie that stole a brother from his brother. A lie that convinced an entire family I had abandoned them. As I walked home that evening, grief slowly gave way to something else. Determination. If Sophie had built her new life on deception, then one day the truth would tear it apart. And when that day came, it wouldn't be anger that destroyed her carefully crafted world. It would be the undeniable truth she thought would stay buried forever. The hardest part about discovering you'd been lied to isn't the anger. It's realizing how many people believed the lie without ever asking for your side. For weeks after my conversation with Lily, I couldn't stop replaying everything in my head. Every cold glance from my family, every unanswered message, every holiday I spent alone suddenly made sense. Someone had carefully rewritten my story, and that someone was Sophie, but feelings weren't enough. If I wanted my family to believe me, I needed proof, not assumptions. I started with something simple. I requested a copy of my phone records from the week of the wedding. The results surprised me. There were no incoming calls from Daniel on the wedding day, even though everyone insisted he'd try to reach me. Someone had lied. Next, I searched through old emails and found the original wedding invitation. Attached to it was the rehearsal schedule Daniel had sent months before. At the bottom was a handwritten note he had scanned into the email. "Couldn't imagine this day without my little brother standing beside me." I read that sentence at least 20 times. The tears came before I even realized I was crying. Daniel had wanted me there. He always had. A few days later, another unexpected piece of the puzzle arrived. Mark, one of Daniel's closest friends, called me out of the blue. "I've been meaning to ask you something," he said. "Go ahead. Why didn't you answer Daniel's calls that morning?" "I never got any." There was a long silence. "I watched him call you several times while we were getting ready. My heart pounded. Are you sure?" I handed him his phone myself. That didn't make sense. "Unless, what happened after that?" I asked. Mark thought for a moment. Sophie came into the room. She said she'd handle it and borrowed Daniel's phone. A few minutes later, she came back and said you'd refused to answer. Every piece was beginning to fit. That evening, I met Mark in person. He showed me a group photo from the groom's suite taken just minutes before the ceremony. There, sitting on the table beside Sophie, was Daniel's phone. The timestamp matched exactly. I zoomed in until my hands trembled. The phone screen was lit up with my contact name. She had access to every message, every call, every chance Daniel had to reach me. Mark frowned as he watched my expression change. "Ethan, what are you thinking?" "I think someone made sure my brother never heard my side of the story. The investigation didn't stop there." Over the next month, more people quietly reached out. An aunt admitted Sophie had asked everyone not to bother calling me because I needed space. A cousin confessed Sophie had deleted family photos that included me before posting wedding pictures online. Even the wedding photographer remembered being instructed not to ask where the best man had gone. One by one, the lies surfaced. Not because I forced them to, because lies have a way of collapsing under their own weight. Still, I didn't rush to confront anyone. I wanted the truth to speak for itself. I gathered screenshots, phone records, witness statements, emails, and photographs into a single folder. Every page told the same story. A brother who had never abandoned his family. A bride who had carefully separated two brothers before saying, "I do." Finally, 6 months after the wedding, an invitation arrived. My parents were hosting a dinner to celebrate their anniversary. The entire family would be there, including Daniel, including Sophie. As I held the invitation in my hands, I realized fate had given me something I hadn't expected. One table, one family, one chance. I wasn't walking into that house looking for revenge born from rage. I was walking in carrying something far more powerful, the truth. And before the night was over, every lie Sophie had built her perfect life upon would begin to crumble, one piece at a time. The invitation rested on my kitchen table for 3 days before I finally picked it up again. My parents' anniversary dinner was supposed to be a celebration of love, family, and new beginnings. Ironically, it was about to become the night every hidden lie came into the light. When I arrived at the house, the room fell silent. Some relatives looked surprised to see me. Others looked uncomfortable. Daniel froze the moment our eyes met. For 6 months, we had lived like strangers. He took a hesitant step toward me, "Ethan." Before he could say another word, Sophie slipped her hand into his and forced a smile. "I'm glad you decided to come," she said sweetly. "I hope tonight can finally put the past behind us." I looked at her calmly. "Oh, it will." We sat down for dinner, pretending everything was normal. Laughter filled the room, but beneath it I could feel the tension growing. After dessert, my father stood to make a toast. "Family," he said, raising his glass, "is built on trust." His words echoed through the room. I slowly stood from my chair. "If I may," I said, "I'd like to share something too." Everyone turned toward me. Daniel nodded. "Go ahead." I placed a thick folder on the dining table. I spent months wondering why my own brother no longer wanted me at his wedding. Sophie's smile disappeared. I believed I had done something unforgivable. I opened the folder and laid out the first document. "This is the email Daniel sent me before the wedding." Daniel leaned forward as I read the handwritten note aloud. "Couldn't imagine this day without my little brother standing beside me." His face turned pale. "I wrote that," he whispered. Next came my phone records. There were no missed calls from Daniel on my phone that morning. Then I placed photographs on the table. Mark took these while everyone was getting ready. The image clearly showed Daniel's phone sitting beside Sophie just minutes before the ceremony. Mark, who had also been invited to the dinner, quietly spoke up. "I saw Sophie take Daniel's phone. She told him she'd contact Ethan herself." Every eye in the room shifted toward Sophie. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I continued. "Lily heard Sophie telling guests I was jealous. Lisa was asked not to call me. Our aunt was told I wanted nothing to do with the family." One by one, relatives confirmed what they had witnessed. The room grew painfully quiet. Daniel slowly turned toward his wife. "Tell me they're wrong." She looked around desperately. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Did you tell Ethan not to come?" Silence. Sophie, finally, tears rolled down her face. "Yes," the single word shattered the room. "I was afraid," she admitted. "Your family loved Ethan so much. Every conversation became about him. I wanted us to start our marriage without anyone standing between us. Daniel stared at her in disbelief. So you destroyed my relationship with my brother. I thought eventually everyone would move on. He stepped back as if he no longer recognized the woman standing before him. You didn't just lie to Ethan, he said, his voice breaking. You lied to me. You stole 6 months I'll never get back. Then he turned toward me. With tears in his eyes, he whispered, I'm so sorry. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Daniel wrapped his arms around me, and for the first time since his wedding day, I hugged my brother again. Around us, our family cried quietly. Sophie's carefully built version of the future had collapsed, not because of shouting, revenge, or hatred, but because the truth had finally been given a voice. That was the moment I understood the meaning of her cruel words. She had once looked at me and said, Don't come tomorrow. She wanted to erase my place in the family. Instead, I made sure there wasn't a tomorrow for the lies she had built. From that night on, deception no longer had a future. Only the truth did.